Is a creative education important for children, or is it something that they can do later in life if they so choose? This is an incredibly important question that every parent or educator at some point in their life has asked themselves, and it has been a widely discussed topic throughout schools worldwide in order to decide on their curriculums. Different countries have taken different approaches, but by and large, most have arrived at the conclusion that of all the subjects that need to take priority, the arts can be sidetracked and learned at a later date or privately. At a glance, this seems to make sense. I mean, what's more important, for your child to learn how to read and write, or for him to draw a pretty picture? The answer seems obvious, no? Well, actually, in my opinion, no. And here's why. Hi, my name is Lorna Romanenghi, and I am a jewellery designer and maker. My work has been exhibited internationally and has won numerous awards along the way. Here, on my channel, I will take you by the hand, giving you VIP access to behind the scenes of the jewellery world, so you can feel more confident and educated when buying, commissioning, or simply appreciating jewellery. To make sure you don't miss out on any new content, click the subscribe button below. First of all, I would like to make a distinction. An artistic education and a creative education are two separate things. They're two distinct, separate things. An artistic education means teaching artistic practices such as art, design, music, etc. However, a creative education is a different approach to learning, which relies heavily on interactions and a more hands-on approach to learning, encouraging the child to think outside the box, solve problems, immerse himself fully in the learning experience. This substitutes the more traditional approach to learning, which we all know, that relies heavily on memorizing. As you can see, you can easily take a creative learning approach to non-artistic subjects and still technically give your child a creative learning approach without teaching artistic subjects. However, I believe that both creative learning and artistic learning are both of equal importance in a child's education. And in fact, I believe them to be codependent. In other words, I believe that to do one properly, you need the other one as a primary tool in order to do it, basically. So I was educated, for example, in Italy, where they have a very traditional education style, which relies heavily on memorization and learning verbatim. And before the curriculum change, which happened after my primary education, in which they just took away any artistic subjects from schools, I did learn in my primary education, I did learn artistic subjects such as art and music. But it wasn't art and music as you know them, for instance, here in the UK, where you actually have a hands-on approach to learning art or learning music. It was instead learning art history and music history. So as you can see, I had an artistic education technically, but I did not have a creative education, because even the subjects that were artistic were not taught in a creative fashion, because I was learning them as I would learn any other subject, and it was just literally a question of memorizing and learning the dates, and just it was another subject. But I always wished that I could be taught a hands-on approach and actually properly learn how to draw or how to paint or properly learn an instrument. And luckily, I had a very different upbringing. My parents were both musicians. I was exposed to that from a very young age. Most of my friends were artists as well. So again, you get a different education just from the people that surround you. And everything that I learnt about art and design was completely self-taught, so I never had any formal education until I came to the UK and actually started properly studying it and got my degree. But up until that point, everything that I learnt, I just learnt myself and just figured it out myself, which for me had its advantages, I guess, but it was just because I was able to talk to people who had made art and design and music their life's work. So I was already immersed in this life, in this culture, while a lot of others that didn't have the luck that I had of being brought up by artistic people and creative people maybe would have had a natural inkling for the arts, but would have never found that out because they weren't being educated in either artistic practices properly or in any kind of creative education. So anyone that had a creative bent was never encouraged to pursue that. So as you can see, I had an artistic education but not a creative education. And to be honest, for a creative like myself, that was absolute torture for me as a child. However, if you were to structure normal subjects in a creative learning approach, you could argue that having artistic subjects isn't necessary, it's just an optional extra. But I disagree with that, and here's why. Art and music, when taught properly, are innately creative subjects. Creativity is at their core in multiple ways without you even consciously realizing half of them. Art, design and music teach hand-eye coordination, they teach dexterity better than just simply writing, which is what you learn at school. Both hands are constantly involved in everything that you're doing, and it's not just your hands, it's your full body that gets involved in doing a task. This in turn trains their brain and their motor skills to be more fast and more reactive. Artistic subjects also teach how to problem solve, how to come up with alternative solutions and think outside the box. It teaches how to understand abstract concepts, but not only that, bring an abstract concept and create it and bring it to life. Also, if taught properly, art, music and design can help a child develop empathy. These are just some of the many advantages of giving your child a creative, artistic education, which help them grow as an individual. But these aspects not only help them grow as people, but it helps them grow in different aspects of their life. And it doesn't necessarily mean that by learning artistic subjects, obviously in a creative way, that their only scope and the only benefit is to become an artist or become a designer or become a musician. It actually benefits other subjects and other areas of their life. Now, I'm no researcher or statistician, and I'm not just going to sit back, use someone else's work and quote statistics at you and just call them my own, because I don't believe that's right. So if you're interested in actually learning more, reading more about this, seeing the kind of benefits that a creative or artistic education has, then I'm going to leave some links to different articles down below in my comments box, but it's something that there are many articles about, so feel free to go and do your own exploration and your own studies, because at the end of the day, it's your mind. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you the empirical truth, as it were. But this is my opinion. This is what I read into it. The only thing that I can tell you is that personally, I've seen the results of a creative and artistic education firsthand. And I mean, my mum is a music teacher, she's a violin teacher, and she's been teaching over 30 years, both privately and in schools. And I have to say that the results from her pupils has always been astonishing compared to their peers who were not having that artistic or creative education. They were much more, well, advanced really. They saw things that others didn't. They found it then easier to learn other things at school. They could think outside the box. They could find relations to other things where their peers couldn't. So parents were, for instance, always commenting that once they had started their violin tutoring with my mother, once they'd started learning creatively and artistically, that their results in school had got better as well. So their grades were better. They were actually engaging more with the lessons at school. And this is just a minor example of a benefit that I've been seeing my whole life by seeing someone before and after a creative education, and the change is just astounding. But this is just something that I've observed over the years, and it's what I can tell you about my experience. But as I said, I'm no statistician, I'm no scientist, I'm no researcher. So if you want to find out more about this and create your own opinions about it, then I urge you to go and do your own research. And as I said, I'm going to leave some links down below for you to have a look at as a starting point. So the bottom line is that teaching art and music to a child is extremely beneficial to the child's development, even if the child doesn't decide to continue with artistic practices for the rest of their life and doesn't decide to become a musician or an artist. But an artistic education that helps a child develop these problem-solving aspects, these hand-eye coordinations, this empathy, would actually benefit them in whatever career they decide to choose. It might make them a better mathematician, a better physicist, a better lawyer, someone that can look at a problem and think up a different solution that no one else had arrived at, because he's been taught creatively and been taught how to think outside the box and how to actually make something from nothing and abstract things and really evolve. So going back to our initial question of, is a creative education important? I think you might agree with me that the answer is yes. And how do we maximize this? By teaching artistic practices in a creative education setting. This is the best combination for a good, rounded education. But apart from its more general advantages that we've seen of actually the development of the child, I believe passionately that every child should have the chance of a creative and artistic education, because they could otherwise be missing out on their talent or vocation and live a life never finding out or never knowing what they're truly capable of, which I believe is the biggest crime of them all. Everyone should have the opportunity of discovering their passion. You only have one life. Don't fill it with what ifs. This is a subject that I am very passionate about, and I am currently working on some class ideas for younger students in which I can help this problem of a creative and artistic education and offer children a chance to explore different arts, different disciplines, different designs, and think outside the box. So stay tuned for any updates. I hope this video has given you pause for thought, and if you have any questions or comments, then please just leave them in the comments box down below. Or if you would like to write to me directly through my social media at Lorna Design or through my website at lornaromanenghi.com, I would be more than happy to hear from you. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to click the little notification button that keeps you up to date with all my latest videos. If you have already subscribed, then thank you so much. Your support means the world to me. Thank you for joining me today, and see you all soon.